this is Peter Goodman. I'm here at the Seventh Annual Albany FilmFest in Albany, California. And right now I'm speaking with Courtney Quirin, who is the director-producer of The Georgia Girl.
Oh.
Hi, thanks for coming. So tell us a little bit about the film.
The Georgia Girl follows a father-son salmon fishing trip out of Vancouver, BC, and along the journey you learn about some problems in the fishing industry, mainly that there is a monopoly that's kind of leading to the decline of small-scale commercial fishing. So Duncan, my main character, he's this young fisherman, and he doesn't want to really give in to the system that's destroying his livelihood. So he decides to not sell his fish to the monopoly and instead go ahead and distribute his own fish and also trace it. So there's this thing called fish traceability, and where you can trace the fish from the fisherman who caught the fish all the way through the supply chain to the store. And then when the customer buys the fish, then they can go online, put in a little number that comes with the fish, and figure out who caught their fish, what nets, when it was caught, and whether or not it was sustainable.
I had never heard of fish traceability. I had no idea that happened. Is that just with the salmon, or is it with many other kinds of fish?
They're starting to do it with other kinds of fish. It's not for every fish. It's quite new, like within the last 3 or 4 years, there's fish traceability, but it's really hard. The seafood industry is one of the murkiest food industries out there. A lot of times, like you can, labeling laws are really unclear. In some places, fish that are caught locally are labeled local, but they still might be sent to, say, China to be processed and back. So as a consumer, you don't really know where your fish has been, even if it's labeled local. It might not fully be local.
I never thought to ask. I never thought it was even possible to know. But let us, as you say, let's talk about your process. It seems to me about a quarter of the film takes place on the ground, where he's going around trying to sell the fish, but most of it really takes place on the boat, where it's heaving back and forth, and it's cold and wet. What was it like to film in those conditions?
It was pretty tough. So I shot the film in 2 days, and the first day I went out on the boat with Duncan. I did wear a little patch behind my ear so that I wouldn't get seasick. There was something called like scopolamine or something like that. But it helps you not get seasick. But I actually, if you get it on your fingers and in your eyes, you can get double vision, and that happened to me. So kind of halfway through, I got like really blurred vision. That was not good, but I managed anyway. But so I used a monopod, and I shot it with a 5D, and then
For our audience, what is a monopod?
A monopod is a monopod is like a tripod, but just one kind of stick. So it's kind of one stick that's adjustable, and then you put your camera on it. And then a 5D is a DSLR camera, a 5D Mark III Canon. So a small camera, and then I did the sound myself as well on the boat, and I just had them microphoned all day, and it was a really long day, and then I just followed them and followed the motion, and
How big a crew did you have on the boat with you?
Just me.
Really?
Yes.
Just you?
Just me. There's not room for anybody else on the boat. And the second day, driving around, I was in the car with Duncan, and I filmed, and I had Duncan mic'd up, and then I had a classmate, because this was my graduate thesis film. I had a classmate following in a car behind, and he had a boom. But, like the film was just so tight and intimate that he could really only boom in a few scenes. He boomed at the fish store and like at the airport, and that was about it.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's pretty impressive. So that was, that seems quite arduous, because you had to be paying attention the whole time, and with double vision.
Just on the boat, halfway through. Yeah, that was not good. So I had a lot of stuff going on, monitoring the sound, and then the picture, and then also the content, as the director.
And how did you get interested in filmmaking?
Oh, yeah, that's a great question. So I used to be a wildlife biologist, and I got a master's in it. Did research in Ethiopia, and then I did 2 years of a PhD studying urban coyotes. And then I just realized I was turning into a statistician for animals, and that's just not how I wanted to live my life, from writing dry articles. So I left, and I moved out here without a job, and through a series of events became a journalist. But I'm also an artist. Like, I draw and I paint, and I've done photography for forever. I started painting when I was 9. So I just kind of had in the back of my head that maybe filmmaking could be a good way to marry my love for the arts and the visual part of it with like my scientific and research side, because a journalist is very much research as well. So it was kind of the perfect combination. So after working as a journalist for a year or 2 in San Francisco, I went back to graduate school for documentary film.
And this was your, like you say, this was your graduate thesis, I guess?
Yeah, my first film, yeah.
And what have you done with it? Have you sent it off to other festivals?
Yeah, it's screened at 2 other festivals. It won a Cine Golden Eagle Award for Best Student Documentary, which is like a national kind of competition. It's screened at a film festival in Slovakia, an environmental film festival, and then it filmed at the Green Mountain Film Festival in Vermont.
Have you been able to get it in the hands of the Canadian environmental authorities or the fisheries or whoever those people are?
I haven't tried because basically once I graduated, I went straight from graduate school. I went straight to South Africa to report for the Associated Press 10 days after I graduated, and then I was there on a fellowship for 3 months reporting, and then I went straight to British Columbia to shoot for 2 months to shoot my next film. So I've been like just sprinting ever since I made this film, that I haven't given it as big of legs as I should. I'm working on it.
Good. Well, tell us, what's your next film?
So I am currently a resident at the San Francisco Film Society, where I'm working on a film called Guardian that is about the erosion of science and environmental management in Canada, told through the eyes of these people called guardians. And guardians live on boats full-time in the depths of the Great Bear Rainforest, which is one of the last pristine frontiers of the world. It runs from the border of Alaska and BC all the way down to the top of Vancouver Island. You can only get around by boat or seaplane, and every day guardians move to a new location, drop anchor, and canoe out into the wilderness, and then walk through streams up to their chests to monitor spawning salmon. And salmon are the crux of the ecosystem, economy, and culture of British Columbia. And my main character, the oldest guardian, has lived on his boat for 40 years as well for this job. But as the narrative unravels, you learn that there are only 7 left because the last Prime Minister of Canada slashed funding and research in the environment, especially if it looked into the effects of oil and natural gas. And with that, all these people who monitored the environment, their jobs were lost. And at the same time, the last Prime Minister of Canada, Stephen Harper, he streamlined the process for liquefied natural gas and oil pipelines to go through. So you have a loss of monitoring and a spike of development in natural gas and oil.
Are you Canadian originally?
No, but I keep finding great stories in Canada. And how I found out about the Guardian film is because Duncan, the fisherman from The Georgia Girl, he told me about the Guardians. He said, you need to talk to them. They know more about what's going on than anybody, because they've literally dedicated their whole lives to just living in the wilderness and looking after it. So Duncan grew up fishing with his dad, who's also in the film, in the Great Bear Rainforest in the summer. So he contacted the oldest guardian who he knew, who was the oldest one left, got his satellite phone number because there's no cell reception, and then I just called him up.
Great. Well, when that film is ready, I hope you'll send it on to the Albany Film Festival.
It's a feature, so you better.
Oh, it's a feature.
Yeah, you better.
All right, we'll have to expand our definition somewhat. Well, Courtney, thanks very much for coming by.
Yeah, thanks so much. It was a pleasure.
Congratulations, it was a wonderful film.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.